Well, hey there, welcome to another episode of Bill Selak Talks. My name is Bill Selak. This is me talking. So my latest blog post is what we're going to focus on today. I'm going to give you kind of a narrative version of it, a bit more reflection than kind of step-by-step about how I moved my website after 20 years of hosting with Bluehost away from Bluehost. So the first part is the why, and it's really like, it was just expensive. It ended up being like $400 a year for hosting, and then each domain, I have four domains, was $30 per year. Bluehost used to be the best deal. It was like unlimited hosting, super cheap domains, reasonably priced hosting. And it's since become not that. And I felt kind of stuck for a while with it because all of my stuff lived on Bluehost. And so the big upside is that all my stuff was there. So it was very easy for all the stuff to talk to all the other stuff, and for stuff to be configured properly. And if there's ever a problem, I could just hop on Bluehost support and be like, there's a problem with this and that. They could see all the things and let me know what to do. This actually started, and I felt very, very stuck with this. And here's how I got unstuck with it. I was working on, if we zoom way out, I tend to focus in like 2 or 3 very specific ways that I use generative AI. And the one we're going to focus on right now is the silly fun projects, just to see like if I can pull them off. So this one fun silly project was I play a little game on my phone, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes is the full name of it. And there's one particular gameplay where like it's 1 versus 1. So there's like 8 different things to do, and you slowly build up your characters, and you unlock the new one. Like, I just got the new Grogu, whatever. Not the point of this episode. The point is, in this one, me versus one other person, you set your defense, which I never ever change, by the way, and then you get 24 hours for that, then you have 24 hours to attack them, and you're on offense. And so I had a little script that ran on my Mac Mini that was like, here's a spreadsheet I had of like, if they have Jabba the Hutt on defense, here's your offense, here's the counter for that. So like a very simple counter bot. I was like, oh, okay, that works, but that only works when I'm in front of my Mac Mini. So how do we get that accessed at home, which is where I'm mostly playing my Star Wars game. And it was like, oh, what you actually need is a Cloudflare tunnel. I was like, what's a Cloudflare tunnel? It's like, oh, well, the first step is to get your name servers pointed at Cloudflare. And so hopping into Bluehost, going to DNS, domain name servers, and pointing those records at Cloudflare. Let's let Cloudflare, let's pick one domain that's like the app development one, Stoked Logic, which is my app studio. And let's have StokedLogic.com no longer have the name servers on Bluehost, let's have the name servers on Cloudflare. And so if we pause the story for a moment, what this means is if you type in StokedLogic.com, suddenly Cloudflare is like, oh, that's us. The files live here. Go here and load this website. That's what I was changing. So instead of Bluehost being like, oh, it's us, someone typed in StokedLogic, go to these files, Cloudflare is responsible for that. All right? It was like a very low-risk way to dip my toe in the water. So if you're stuck on your own domain and you're like, I'm paying a lot for my thing, I want to migrate to something, getting your domain, your DNS hosted with Cloudflare is a free step, right? So again, like easy to dip your toe in the water, and then very simple. So once I had that, then I could add something called an A record. So in your DNS records, I can type in the acronym for Star Wars, SWGOH, and what that gave me is now I could go to swgoh.stokedlogic.com and access my little counter bot. Again, like fun, silly. If it broke, no big deal, which is like a great way to kind of push what I'm comfortable with, which is really, I think, kind of theme 1 of the episode you're listening to right now, is like, I was not comfortable doing any of this, and now I am. And then theme 2, and these are our only 2 themes. I know we're supposed to work in 3s and 4s, but there's only 2 themes. The second one was actually having a dedicated chat on ChatGPT that gave me the confidence to take these steps and was able to lay out all the steps ahead of time meant I could just take one step at a time, and when something didn't quite work, it was like, here's how to fix it. And now that I'm on the other end of it and everything is migrated away from Bluehost, that totally worked. And it was a little bit scary every step along the way, which is why I'm sharing with you what I did and how I did it and how it actually worked. So, there's one other small thing I had to do to be able to actually have that one script, which is a website like hosted externally in addition to the Cloudflare tunnel. Not the point of this, but basically I did that step and then did the tunnel so that I could just type in swgoh.stokedlogic.com and then I have it. So actually, if you're listening to this now, you could go to that. Just my defense is already set. There's not an interface for you to set your own defense if you also play that silly Star Wars game on your phone or iPad. That was step one. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I asked the same chat, like, could we actually migrate my domains away from Bluehost? Because $30 per year per domain just to own stokedlogic.com feels kind of expensive. And it was like, yep, you can do that. It's a domain transfer. Walked me through how to do that. This was actually the easiest step and the lengthiest one. So you go into wherever you're hosting your domains. For me, it was Bluehost. Go into domains, go into transfers, request the auth code, the authorization code, paste that into Cloudflare, and then it goes, yep, got it. And then you wait, depending on who hosts and currently owns your domain, about 5 days. And then it's just transferred. So now, this is step two, big step, where now Cloudflare has the DNS pointing. So when you type in stokedlogic.com, it's like, oh, that goes here, that goes to this website. And when you renew, Cloudflare, my account, owns the... Why am I going 35 on the freeway? This is the other question. It's great for noise while driving, but this car in front of me is having issues, and there's nobody in front of it. But that's okay. We're going to keep rolling. He's just looking at his phone and not realizing he's going 35 on the freeway. Come on, bud. We want you to not get hit. So, Cloudflare owns two parts. It points people when they type stokedlogic.com to the right files, and it's the place I go to renew my hosting so that I own my 4 domains. Cool, right? The great thing about Cloudflare that I love the most, actually, is it's $10.50 to renew. Not $30 per year per domain, $10.50 per year per domain. Amazing, right? The answer is yes. Yes, Bill, that is amazing. So if you're paying more than $10 per year for your domains, just do this in 2 steps. Change your DNS, the name servers. There's 2 name servers. Just change that. So like wherever you are, for me it was Bluehost. These are my new domain servers. Name servers. There's 2 of them. You change them, and now Cloudflare owns that. It also comes with a whole bunch of settings that any generative AI chat can say, turn this on and off, make sure to do this, always force HTTP version whatever, use TLS version whatever. It will tell you all of those things. Those are all relatively safe to change, bump up the security. Once I did all of that, by the way, it was like, go to SSL something, paste in your domain, and get a grade. And so I did this for all 4 of my domains. If you're wondering, by the way, billselak.com, just my main blog and website, stokedlogic.com for the apps I'm building for iPhone, for iOS, for iPad, for Mac. We also have eduawesome.com, wondering who else still has the eduawesome.com emails that we all created like 15 years ago on Twitter. If you want one, let me know, hit me up, and I will get you your own, like bill at eduawesome.com. There's that one I also use for like presentation redirects, eduawesome.com/GarageBand, likely goes to a blog post. And then finally, a standalone podcast, headsdown2thumbsup.com, a podcast I do with Carla where we talk about movies that talk about schools. So the SSL something or other, you paste it in, and like Stoke Logic got an A, and I pasted in the results in chat. It's like, cool, change this one other setting. BillSelak.com got a B. I was like, oh no. It turns out I think it was TLS was using 1.0, which, by the way, I still don't know what that means. But it was like, TLS needs to be 1.2 or 1.3. It's like, cool, made that change, done, stoked. So now, Cloudflare now owns my domains, or I own my domains through Cloudflare, and the name servers are through Cloudflare. The last big thing is the hosting, which is actually just where do all the files live. So if you type in like billselak.com/photos/silly.jpg, if I had something there, like that file actually is still hosted by Bluehost, and that's the one that was like $400 a year, which is a lot, and it's gotten very expensive over the last 20 years. So it's also, I use WordPress to power my various websites. At the time before I migrated, I had 17 different WordPress installs, all the different ed camps that I helped run. Those were all separate websites that had separate databases. They're MySQL databases, SQL, MySQL database. Every WordPress install had one of those. So any website I had ever done that is a WordPress website had a database to go with it. That's also hosted through PHP, my PHP. All that doesn't matter as much. The point is it's databases and files that Bluehost was hosting. And ChatGPT actually recommended KnownHost and a little bit of homework, and they seemed great. And so a little bit with support of what that involves. I'm also coming up like 2 weeks away from another renewal for Bluehost, and I was like, I would love to get off of this because it's gotten much, much more expensive. It's like tripled in price over the last 20 years. Meanwhile, other stuff has gotten cheaper. And just to like see if I could do it, I didn't even pay 3 years in advance, not even 2 years, not 1 year. I just did a month of KnownHost, $10 a month, which is the most expensive it gets since you're not paying for 1 or 2 or 3 years up front. When you pay for 3 years up front with KnownHost, the welcoming onboarding discount is like $6 a month. And that gets you like 5 databases. So for me, like 5 WordPress websites and then 25 gigabytes of storage. And so I was like, oh, I have 17 databases. Downloaded all 17, fed them into Codex, which is the coding thing that ChatGPT has, right? So it's the OpenAI like coding. So the way I'm writing nearly all of my apps is by opening up Codex, saying, look at this folder, now do this to the files in the folder, and then it builds the app for me. It's much more complicated than that to actually get an app that's actually useful, but at its most basic, that's what it does. So I actually downloaded all 44 gigabytes from BillSelak.com on WordPress, downloaded all 17 databases, and then actually worked with Codex to build some scripts. And so there's like 5 to 10 different scripts that it actually built, that it ran, that I might actually publish at some point, because this is actually useful for anyone at this point. But because I had so many different databases, instead of doing the same thing 17 times, I just had it build a script once and then deploy that script 17 times. And so it basically was like, all right, Bill, these are the 3 databases you actually need. These are the ones you can delete from Bluehost. Here's 44 gigabytes of data. Here's stuff you just don't need. And then similar to like different like Mac OS utilities that can be like, let me look at where my files are big and what I can delete, and sort by last used, sort by biggest size. There's a bunch of stuff I could delete from my website that I just am not using anymore. So that got me from 44 gigabytes on my WordPress host down to 15. It's like, that's great, because the $10 a month, or if you pay up front, $6 a month, KnownHost has a 25 gigabyte limit. 15 out of 25, totally room to grow. Great. So it was like, all right, let's go ahead and actually spend the whopping $10, it might have been 11, to have KnownHost be my website host for a month. And then KnownHost has a whole migration thing you just like create a ticket. You're like, here's my login credentials, which felt a little weird, but whatever. I changed it afterwards. And in less than a day, it migrated all 3 of those databases, imported them into KnownHost and hosting the databases. So the 3 websites migrated all 15 gigabytes over. ChatGPT gave me a few like, check this, check that, type this in, see if you can log in and SSH into your hosting, just all the stuff. If none of this makes any sense, just be like, hey ChatGPT, what should I do now that it's migrated? And it'll say, run this, check that, open that. There's one thing where actually one error in the migration, stoked logic, for some reason wasn't working. It was giving me a Cloudflare error. And the really cool thing that I don't understand, but all you need to know if you're listening now, if you've made it this far, is that you don't need to understand it. You just need to know that there is a problem and that ChatGPT or whatever generative AI you use can fix it for you. Before I actually went live with this cutover from WordPress hosting to KnownHost hosting, because all we're dealing is like with your name servers, because I'd already moved, remember part 1 and part 2? I'd already moved everything to Cloudflare. All Cloudflare needs to do is say, hey, the files are over here, hey, the files are over there. I was able to actually look at the files on KnownHost before they were public. It was really cool. It felt like very like behind the scenes pre-launch kind of thing. I don't know how I did that, but I did do that. It was something in the terminal, and you're like, hey, look at this IP address. When I type in billselak.com, look at this IP address, which is all that a website.com is. It's like a hidden IP address at its most basic. It's much more complicated than that. And so I got to go like, when I typed in billselak.com, stokedlogic.com, it actually looked at the KnownHost version of it, which was only for me, and not the Bluehost version, which was for everybody else on the planet. So there was some problem with Stoked Logic where like the files weren't matched, or like the domain wasn't registered the right way, and it was like, do this and that, type this and that, check this and that, run that test, and it worked. In like 5 minutes, it totally worked. And then basically did the cutover, and again, like, I don't know quite how I did that. I think it was in Cloudflare, and changed one of the records, one of the A records, from one IP address to another IP address, and that basically, like, one of the IP addresses was Bluehost, the other one was KnownHost. And so when I did that A record cutover for each of my 4 domains, it basically said, like, when people type in stokedlogic.com, look at the KnownHost files. And then suddenly, I was like, wait, so like, I'd asked it like 3 different times. So we're live, like, I type in stokedlogic.com, and it's the KnownHost files. I was like, yep, and here's how to check it. And I typed that in, and I was like, yep, that's it. There's something you can do in the terminal where it actually shows you the IP address of a domain, and that IP address was the KnownHost IP address. And I was like, okay, I guess we're working. The cool thing is that we still had 2 or 3 weeks left of Bluehost hosting, right? Because I had paid a whole year up front, $400. And so I actually had that as a backup, and I had downloaded everything so that I could run my 5 or 10 scripts that Codex wrote and deployed and gave me feedback on along the way, so that I had actually 3 different places all of my website files were. On Bluehost, where they've always been, on my computer, which was like, let's have it just as a backup and to run all these scripts, and on KnownHost, which KnownHost did the migration for me when I signed up for them, even though it was just a 1-month sign up. Really, really cool, right? So as of me recording this in this moment, my files live in 3 places. I also put them on an external drive, so I guess 4 places, because why not, along the way. And then in 2 more weeks, I'm going to stop paying for Bluehost. So the files will no longer be hosted there, but like, they aren't served anymore. They're just essentially an archive, because when you type in billselak.com, there's an A record that says, hey, look at the files on KnownHost. And KnownHost is like, yep, we've got them right here. If I stop paying for KnownHost, then my website disappears and you get a Cloudflare error, which I'm going to not do. So those were all of the steps. If you want to dip your toe in the water, let's circle all the way back, pointing your name servers of your current domain, whatever your .com or .biz is, .org, .us, I don't know, say like probably yourname.com, or the something with your last name, education.com. All you have to do is log in where you pay to renew, right, where you own your domain, and create a new Cloudflare account, and then you go into domains and like whatever the top right button is, add domain, import domain, type it in. It'll give you 2 name servers. You're going to go back to, in my case, Bluehost, and be like, hey, change custom name servers, not from the one you have, to these 2 name servers, and done, and save. And within like 5 minutes, Cloudflare is hosting your name servers. And then you can do a whole bunch of really cool stuff for free. You sign up for the free Cloudflare accounts. I'm actually not paying anything for Cloudflare to like manage and do the security and the name server stuff. All I pay Cloudflare for is every year when I want to renew my domains, I pay the $10.50 to Cloudflare. But that's step 2. That's not even like, I'm not even asking you to do that. It's just getting those 2 name servers to have Cloudflare manage those. Cloudflare free, paste them in your custom name servers wherever you're paying to host, and then like live with that for a week. If you love that, transfer the domain. Ask generative AI how to transfer the domain. It's that off code. Go back and listen to that part of the episode again. And then suddenly Cloudflare is where you pay to renew your hosting, $10, $11 per year. It's going to be cheaper than almost anywhere you're going to renew. That's great. And the hosting part is a bit more complicated, but you can do it. I just walked you through how I did it. And so for me now, I have 2 places for my website stuff. KnownHost, where my files and databases are, and then Cloudflare for where my domain stuff is. And the simple transition is just getting your name servers over there. So if you're like, yeah, I'm in, do that. I wrote all this down also in a blog post if you don't want to have to rewind and take notes. But I think understanding kind of some of the why with a podcast might be like, yeah, I could do that. And hopefully for you, it's a little bit less taking a risk, jumping in the deep end, because you just heard me walk you through how I did it. And then also you got, like an ongoing chat with ChatGPT that can walk you through the steps if something breaks and what to check, and grab a screenshot and be like, do I check proxy or uncheck it? Do I need this one or not? And it'll help you clean up all of those records when you move over to Cloudflare, because you're not going to know all the things. And it used to be, we're going to end with our final theme of like, I could have done this on my own, but it would have taken months of like reading and migrating, and like, every step would be like, what is this DNS record? Do I need it? I think I might need it. I'm going to just leave it. Or, I got this random error with Cloudflare. I don't know what to do. Let me Google it and research for like an hour on every mistake. Instead, it was just this persistent chat. And ChatGPT was like, here's the thing, uncheck this, uncheck that. And if something broke, I could just recheck it. I downloaded all the DNS records as a text thing. So if I deleted something I shouldn't, I could have just added it back. But as it turns out, ChatGPT got everything on the first try flawlessly, because there's a lot of documentation online about DNS records and hosts and migrating hosts and all of that. So like, dude, it was solid. If you are not using Cloudflare for your name servers, that is my suggestion for you. And getting an ongoing chat with ChatGPT around your domain hosting and configuration is a smart thing to do. So get that started, and whenever you're making changes around your DNS settings or your name servers or your domains, you just go back to that chat and you've got it. You've got this. It's good stuff. It was quite a process. I learned a ton along the way. And to end with kind of theme 2, I probably would not have done it without ChatGPT because it felt big and scary and like I didn't know everything. And if I made a mistake, my whole website would disappear. And that is true. I don't know everything. And if I had made a mistake, my website would have disappeared. But ChatGPT made it so simple once I gave it the info I needed that it was just locked in. And I moved very, very quickly through all the steps. And it was great. So, yeah, that is it. DNS records and hosting and all the geeky stuff, but ultimately will save you a whole bunch of money and add a whole bunch of security, and it's good stuff. That is my story. If you do switch over to Cloudflare, let me know. Like, hit me up somewhere. Do people say hit me up? I feel like that just dated me as an elder millennial, a zennial. Let me know. I'd be super curious. And you'll be like, yeah, Cloudflare, it's good stuff. I'll be like, yeah, it is. Yeah, that's all I got for you today. Thanks for listening. My name is Bill Selak. This has been me